All right, let's do this. Welcome one, welcome all to Screams from the Library, the show where a manic, depressive, non-binary, middle-aged person talks only about what they like about a different horror movie each episode. Because life's too short for negativity and horror movies are awesome. I'm your host, Junkshop, from the Junkshop Library channel, as well as the Chronic Atheist podcast. And today, we're talking about George Barron's 2024 fever dream masterpiece, mind melt awesomeness, The Blue Rose. It is currently available to rent or buy essentially everywhere you can rent or buy digital movies. And I cannot recommend strongly enough you do that at your earliest convenience. There is a particular, I don't even want to say subgenre. There's a particular vibe of movie that I am an absolute sucker for. And that is movies that seem to exist only because someone wanted to make them. Examples of this would be The Evil Within, W.R. Mysteries of the Organism, and The Blue Rose, y'all. This movie, I have not been able to get out of my head since I saw it last year, or possibly very early this year. I forgot to check my horror diary before I started recording. I've only seen it once, and it is unshakable. It is also largely unexplainable. Unexplainable? That's not a word. It's not inexplicable, but it is unexplainable, whether or not that's a word. The synopsis, which I'm reading now off of justwatch.com, but which, if memory serves, is largely word for word from where I've seen it other places, is as follows. In the 1950s, two rookie detectives set out to solve a homicide, only to find themselves in an alternate reality made up of their worst nightmares. And that's largely accurate. In much the same way that you could summarize Casablanca as estranged lovers unexpectedly reconnect and learn more about each other, themselves, and the events that drove them apart years ago. I mean, yeah, but that doesn't really tell the movie now, does it? The Blue Rose kicks off with the homicide. It is not an easy-to-watch homicide. Trigger warning for domestic violence. It doesn't dwell on it, it doesn't glamorize it, but it shows it, and it's not easy. And then we get to meet our detectives. I'm not going to blow-by-blow summarize the plot. George Barron, the director, then writer, and producer, and costume designer, also stars in this movie, which is part of what puts it in that sort of vibe subgenre that I mentioned at the start, with WR, with The Evil Within, with movies like that. Red Cockroaches, Maximum Shame, which we will be talking about at some point on this podcast. But it's not just that he was involved at every point in the making of this movie. It's that the entire thing feels like we wandered into either his nightmares or his daydreams or his fantasies or some unholy conglomeration thereof, and we just kind of wander around on like the fourth floor garret of his brain for a while, and it's amazing. It is, first of all, it is beautifully shot, is the Blue Rose. Much of it takes place at night, but you can see everything. There are clues to the mystery our rookie detectives are trying to solve, scattered throughout, that they seem apparently not to notice. The triangle. Hello, the triangle. It's everywhere. How does it take you so long to notice the triangle? You're detectives. And we're talking, just for the record, we're talking like, mid-century police detectives. This is not a gumshoe movie. This is a cop investigation. Until it's not. And then we end up in the latex hospital. We spend some time there. We spend some time in the ominous house where she rules with an iron fist. Or does she? There is, y'all, there is so much latex. So much latex in 1950s nightmare, daydream, drama, utopia, puzzle world. It's kind of glorious. Not gonna lie. It's nice. They investigate. They talk. They wander. There's music. Lots of music. There's a lot of music in the nightclub where they end up several times. Or was it once? It's hard to talk about this movie in a way that makes sense. Because it's hard to watch this movie in a way that makes sense. I don't know if my recommendation, honestly and truly, would be to watch it stone cold sober or blitzed out of your mind on absinthe. Maybe both. Like on subsequent days. Or maybe back to back. Stone cold sober first, obviously, because if you get blitzed out of your mind on absinthe enough to roll around in this movie the way it deserves, you ain't watching it again later, because your ass gonna be passed out. It's really, really bizarre. I watched this with my partner, and more than once, much more than once, over the course of this movie, we turned to each other and said, "What are we watching?" Because it is indecipherable. When I said earlier on, when I said that unexplainable might be the best way to phrase it, I was not wrong. It is very difficult to explain. It's part sort of Mike Hammer era police procedural. It's part musical. It's part fever dream. It's part, well, I did mention the Latex Hospital, right? Also, possibly Hell. The nightclub? The hospital? Real life? Are we ever in real life? Y'all, come in comments. Tell me if you've seen this movie. If you think any of this actually happened. Or what parts of it actually happened. It is a magnificent, twisty, turny, trope inversion-y roll through the chaos of George Barron's mind. At some point, like I said, I've only seen it once. At some point, I really, really think we may bounce out through the fourth wall and be watching the movie from within the movie. Except the real world on our side, the fourth wall, may be a dream. I loved this movie. Critical opinion was mixed when it came out. I get it. I don't think anyone was ready. I was not ready. We're in the pandemic era, okay? So I don't go to movie theaters anymore. I don't go anywhere if I can help it with, like, crowds and the out-of-date HVAC systems and such. I can only imagine what it would have been like watching this movie in a theater, surrounded by people who came for, in the 1950s, two rookie detectives set out to solve a homicide, only to find themselves in an alternate reality made up of their worst nightmares. And who got that? You know, in much the same way that that Star Wars: A New Hope, Empire and Jedi is an exploration of the generational trauma through the eyes of an unwilling hero. I mean, yes, that is, it is, yes. I can only imagine what it would have been like watching this in a room full of largely strangers experiencing this wild, beautiful, crazy, absolutely deranged and demented period of time within the head of George Barron. I cannot fucking wait to see what his next project is. I loved this movie. I kind of want to watch this movie again. I kind of want to watch this movie again right now. But I'm not going to. I don't think. I think I'm going to wait to hear from some of y'all. Some of y'all need to watch this movie so that we can talk about 2024's The Blue Rose. I also think there's something... I think there's Easter eggs. I think part of this points to something else. There is a vibe through the middle third of it. Like, after the homicide trail not so much runs cold as leads us off into an entirely different world, experience, movie, daydream. But before we completely abandon reality and linear storytelling, once we reach the hospital and start escaping from parts of it that I'm not entirely convinced actually exist, even in the world of the latex hell dimension? Maybe? I don't know. The middle third of the movie feels like something else, and I can't place it. It feels like it reached out through the celluloid, through the fiber optic cables, off into what? Something else, because the three main acts of this movie really do have very different vibes, very much unified by the same vision. The classic Star Wars trilogy analogy may not have been the worst one. Very much a unified vision seen through three very, very, very different lenses. Like Act 1, you've got, as I said, sort of the Mike Hammer era police procedural. You know, everybody's smoking in front of the non-smoking signs. Everybody's, you know, hey, Matt, what you got? Extra, read all about it kind of world. And then you're in the dream vision walking through and the nightclub with the protracted musical number. If memory serves, the director, writer, producer, star, costume designer, and general everything on this. General everything. I'm going to start calling creatives like this that. The general everything. I love it. I love it. We need more. We need more. Gotta reach way, way back down in my brain to college. What's the word? What's the word where somebody... auteur. We need more auteurs in film. Because, that's where the good shit comes from. I loved this movie. Like I said, I've only seen it once. I have not been able to get it out of my head. I don't think there's been a week go by in the 6 months or so since I saw it that I have not thought about it multiple times. And not just because it was one of the first movies that I put on my short list for how I wanted to kick off this podcast. Last episode's Final Move. This one, The Blue Rose. There were a couple of others on the short list, and as I said, we will be at some point in the not-too-distant future dipping into the wild and wacky world of another, I'm going to say, unique vision. The horror fetish musical Maximum Shame, which goes on this list as well. I think I mentioned that earlier. I should start diagramming these instead of just completely walking off into the wind and improvising. But if ever there was a walk into the wind and improvise talking about a movie-worthy movie, it is The Blue Rose. It's fucking fantastic. Watch it. Report back. Let's talk. I want to thank everybody who gave such great and overwhelmingly proportionally positive feedback on episode 1. I know it's been a while. You know me. It takes a while for me to get into a groove. It's almost impossible for me to stick with a release schedule. Sono gli incerti del mestiere. As Humbert I of Italy said on surviving his first assassination attempt, these are the risks of the job. So thank you again to everybody who watched, listened, downloaded episode 1. Thank you for sticking around, coming back for episode 2. You can find me on all of some of the social medias. There's too many of them to maintain a presence on all of them. You can find me on what's left of Twitter, though I'm not there as much anymore because it is what it has become now. Instagram, Blue Sky. The other one that I always forget about. Junkshop Library, same name, all places. And Aggressively Miscellaneous on Tumblr. Tumblr, if you will. Tumblr, I just plugged mine in 2025. Time is not real. Nothing is real. Everything is permitted. So that's a wrap on Screams from the Library, Episode 2, George Barron's The Blue Rose. See you around. Stay safe out there, y'all.